have another layout for you today for the Wild Whisper design team. This is actually a layout that I did in January, and just, with all the busyness of the baby and Christmas and the kids getting ready to head back. I guess head back. They're homeschooled, but classes starting up again, and Kaylin had some exams to write, final exams to write. I didn't have an opportunity to get this video edited and voiced over, so I thought that I would just declare today Wild Whisper Day on my channel and give you guys the videos for the last 3 projects that I've done. So this one is using Pam Bray's Christmas and Winter collection. I have the little 6x6 papers, and I think it's just such a beautiful collection. It's, as you can see me kind of flipping through the papers here, you'll see that she uses a lot of photorealistic images, but she's got them collaged together and distressed, and it's just very pretty. And this is super, super kind of Canadian Christmas to me. So there's lots of evergreens and frosty, you can kind of see there where I'm cutting this one, like frosty greenery, and lots of poinsettias and things like that. So a very, very pretty collection. They have 12x12 papers, and then there's the 6x6 papers. And Pam Bray actually has a ton of stuff at Wild Whisper, really gorgeous stamp sets and things like that too. So it was really fun to pull out some of these papers and get them used up. And so the photo that I'm using has a pretty plain background. It's my hubby and 2 middle boys sitting in this red sleigh. We're actually at the Christmas market in Banff, which is this beautiful farm in the middle of the mountains. So you've kind of got all these mountain views around you, and then you have this kind of barn farm setting that they have lots of little spots where you can take pictures. So I thought, since the background is pretty neutral, it's just solid red, there's not a ton of detail in it, it would be really fun to use these papers to bring in little bursts of color. And the papers just really scream kind of outdoor mountain to me anyways. So I pulled out the ones that had the evergreen and the kind of holly with the little berries, and then the one poinsettia paper because I just liked that pop of red. So I wasn't sure at first how I was going to do this, and you could definitely pull out a ruler and really measure all of these properly and kind of fit them together properly. You'll see as I'm placing all of my little squares down that things don't totally line up, and that's mostly because my picture isn't cut to 4x4. Ideally, it would have been cut to 4x4, or maybe you would even grab some little 2x2 pictures that match the papers. I cut my squares to 2x2. You could cut your squares to whatever dimensions you wanted, so definitely don't think that you have to hold yourself to those measurements. But because I didn't actually cut my photo down, the squares don't quite line up, and I kind of knew that was going to happen, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm not as much of a perfect kind of measurer scrapbooker, but definitely know that you could take the time to do that, and then everything would line up properly. And so I wanted to make sure that I kept a lot of white space so that those greens and reds really had something to contrast with and pop and make them look even brighter. But I didn't want it to look like a maze or like a Pac-Man maze or anything like that. So to fill up some of the white space but kind of still keep it looking fairly neutral, I went into my adventure collection, the ephemera pieces, and I pulled out some of the elements that I thought would match. So quite a few of the collections have those little rounds of wood, and that works really good. Again, it kind of goes with that feeling of being out in the mountains, in the forest kind of thing. So I used a few of those, and I found a little tree, so I've got that in there. What else? Oh, some leaves, and then that little adventure ephemera piece I'm going to use as my title. And then I also wanted to do some stamping because I have a lot of Wild Whisper stamp sets and they stamp so beautifully, but I don't seem to pull them out as much as I should. So I have the Christmas stamp set out already. It was just sitting there waiting to be used. And so I thought I would go ahead and grab some of the elements and just stamp them around the layout. So I'm using Evergreen Bow Distress Oxide, and then I have this red ink as well that kind of works nicely, and then just some black. And I'll just stamp a bunch of words like Merry and Christmas and fa la 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 la, and then some of the little starbursts and things. And it just adds another element to my little spaces there. And I just really like using their stamps. So I find any excuse I can to try and get some stamping onto all of my Wild Whisper layouts. So I'm going to kind of create that title as Christmas Adventure, which is basically what we did. We were up a day earlier than the rest of the family that was joining us, and Kaylin. And so we took the boys on a little adventure around Banff, and we went to the hot springs and we went to the Christmas market, and we just had a ton of fun kind of exploring and doing things that we had done with Kaylin when she was little, but hadn't done with the boys. And this, of course, was before we had the baby because this was in 2019. So it was just the four of us, and that was kind of a fun adventure to go on. So it was just perfect that I ended up having that adventure ephemera piece still in the pack. So there you can see I've done the leaf and I've done Merry and then of course Christmas, and here's fa la la, and I'm just finding little open spaces that I can go ahead and kind of stamp that into. And so each little square or each little open space is going to be completely different one from the other because I'm not planning anything. I'm just kind of where I see an open spot, I'm going to fill it up with something. So once I kind of went through all of my Wild Whisper ephemera and stamps and things like that, I started to dig into my Christmas kits. I have my little iris containers filled with all my little Christmas embellishments. They were still all out on the table because as of this point, I hadn't started my December daily yet, and I really thought that that was something that I would end up doing sooner rather than later. Turns out it is the middle of February and I still haven't started my December daily, so I should really get on that. But I just wanted to add a few extra textures to the layout, so I went into my Christmas stash and I found these little tiny trees. They're a wood veneer, but they're a little bit harder. I'm not quite sure how to explain them, but they come from Stampin' Up! And they were just the right size, and they're a little bit of an off-white, so they kind of stand out from the background a little bit and just have that extra texture like a wood veneer. And then I have a big kind of plastic container, which I think also originally came from Stampin' Up!, but I've filled it with sequins. So over the last few years, when you get those little packs of sequins that sometimes come in different collections or little Christmas card making kits and things like that, when I have only a few of them left over, I throw them into this container. So it's a really big mishmash of different Christmassy colored sequins, and so I thought I would just scatter them all over. So again, each little square, each little area is going to get completely different sequins. Some are matte, some are glittery, some are see-through, some are more solid. They're all completely different shades of greens and reds, but that's what I went for, was the greens and the reds. And I think it just adds that kind of fun glittery element to each of those squares. And that is it. That's all for this layout. I'm just going to do a little touch of journaling just to remember that we were at the market, but this layout goes in with a bunch of other layouts and pocket pages from the same weekend, so I don't need to have too much detail in there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will leave the link to Wild Whisper down below so you can go and check out the blog and check out their store and all of Pam Bray's beautiful collections. And you can get 10% off of your purchase if you'd like by using my discount code DTGen at checkout. So remember to go ahead and do that and save yourself a little bit of money. I will also leave the links to the 2 other videos that I have up for the Wild Whisper design team today if you wanted to check those out. And until next time, happy scrapping! Bye!